Hello, Imagine Idiots, and welcome to a very special episode of Idiot's Guide to Imagineering. My regular co-hosts are out today, but I have the honor and privilege of introducing a first-time guest that we're incredibly excited to have on the show. Tyler Davis is a multi-hyphenate creative powerhouse with a passion for crafting deeply detailed and imaginative themed entertainment experiences. And you may know him from his recent multi-week concept pitch for a new Atlantis land at Disneyland Paris. He does custom ride vehicle sketches, full visual layouts, narrative development, you name it. His work is theme park ready in every sense of the word. So when the opportunity came up for us to collaborate, it was obviously a no-brainer. From a few Armchair Imagineers to another, we are always thrilled to connect with people who understand our passion, in quotes. And if that weren't enough, he's not just creating blue sky attractions. You can find him performing nightly on Broadway in the Tony-nominated revival of Sunset Boulevard. And I had the chance to see the show a few weeks ago and was absolutely blown away. He was incredible. So if you are in the New York area in the upcoming weeks, I cannot recommend it enough. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our guest Armchair Imagineer, Tyler Davis.
Well, aren't you sweet? that what a spiel that was. That was some incredibly wonderful writing. I feel very chuffed to hear those wonderful words.
It's all true. It is all true. We are so amazed by you.
It is so fun, and it's wicked cool to be Armchair Imagineers together. In that wonderful, I don't even know who coined that phrase originally.
I don't either.
I have no idea who. I'd be so curious who came up with that. If it was. I think
it came from like a sports term, right? These people who are like armchair coaches or whatever they do when they're watching football or something.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming it came from that, right?
I would assume so. But
Yeah.
but if anyone has a lead on that,
right, let us know.
Hit us up.
And feel free to share anything that I may have missed, and tell everyone how they can connect with you and follow your work.
Yeah, 100%. My day job, you touched on is I am a performer. I am originally from California, but I moved to London when I was 13 years old, and I started doing Amdram shows out in London, and then I went and trained full time in performing at a place called Mount View Academy in London, and then after graduating, I did a few months of auditioning where I got into the show Back to the Future, the musical, where I played one of Biff's goons called 3D, and then also understudied for Biff Tannen, which I got to do, like 60 shows out of the 300 and something that I did. So I got to go on him as quite a lot, which is super fun. He's a super fun guy. It's fun to play the meanie sometimes. So I did that, and then I joined the company of Sunset Boulevard in London. I actually had a little bit of crossover where I was doing rehearsals in the day for Sunset and then doing Back to the Future in the evening, which was great for about 2 weeks, and then I was so done.
I'm tired just hearing that.
It was literally wake up, go to rehearsal, finish rehearsal early to go to perform the show, get home, go to sleep, repeat. and that I'm talking, there was no downtime. It was just like as militant as it could be.
That's wild.
So I did Sunset Boulevard in the UK, and I did that for a few months. It was a limited run. And then the director asked me if myself and my wife, who's also actually in Sunset Boulevard as well.
She's lovely. I got the chance to meet her too.
She's a gem. She's when the phrase better half. Yeah, that's the one. No, she's fab. So we moved to New York to start the show last August for rehearsals, and then we opened in September. And we are closing up in July after the Tony and all that happens. And we see what's going on there. So Yeah. So and between all of that, I was super interested in theme parks and as a guest really for many years. I grew up going to the California Disney for a lot of my younger years, and then when I moved to the UK, it was Disney Paris. I was always a super fan of it. And then somewhere in the year 2020, when we went straight into lockdown, I was in my second year of university at Mount View, where I was training as an actor. And we went into shutdown. We were all at home. We were doing ballets in our kitchen and all kinds of weird stuff just over Zoom. We called it, instead of Mount View, we called it Zoom View. It was just a bit of a wild time. And during that time, I got connected with a program by Khan Academy called Imagineering in a Box, which was meant as a educational tool, free educational tool, mind you, that people could look into, and a super detailed step-by-step of this is how we create a land at a Disney park. And it was run by Imagineers, had incredible knowledge and insights into the industry and creating and what that is. And I kind of did it as my creative industry right now is really quite dire in terms of it just being on Zoom, and my creative flow feels very limited. I've always liked theme parks. I wonder if this is fun. And that actually started the Atlantis project. That was the first thing I did 5 years ago. And just used that as a case study because that was my favorite childhood film growing up. And I'm like, I think this could have some real potential. I absolutely head over heels fell in love with the idea of themed entertainment and designing for themed spaces and telling stories with a theme. What do we want our audiences to walk away with? Who are our audiences in this story? And I found that, I think, as an actor, really interesting, just because I'm interested in people and in emotion, in storytelling. So I think that lent itself very easily to that. But I would call it a very, very strong hobby at the moment. I literally finish my scenes on stage. I go downstairs, I grab my iPad and I sketch, or I think about a story, or I think about how could this work in this park, or if I'm doing, I did the Storyland Design challenge last year, so I was working on that for ages as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you told me that in between scenes during your show, you're back there doodling. And
absolutely, literally,
we would.
I run downstairs. I've got I've got a 15-minute break between my next scene. Let's figure this out. So I think I was sending you material like during the show.
You were sitting. We were like, "Is he not in the middle of a show right now?" I'm
no,
texting the girls.
I absolutely am. And sometimes I'll like nearly miss my cue.
Well, worth it.
No, but that was it's good fun. I never miss my cue. I want to make that
make this clear.
Make this super clear. I have never compromised the show for themed entertainment. Very professional,
of course. And great. And tell people where they can find you.
So my design account that I do stuff on is under Tyler Davis Design. That's Davis, not the Welsh spelling, Davies, which I found out was a Welsh name, and I just have a kind of an Americanized version of. But yeah, Tyler Davis Design for everything design. And then if you wanted me personally, it would be Tyler Michael Davis. So you got the toddler full tell-off full name right there. So
you're in trouble.
Yeah. But that's where you'll find me. Those are both on Instagram, and those are really, really primarily what I use for anything design related or personally related.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. And each week we like to kick things off with a little prompt just to kind of set the tone. It's kind of on theme with what we're going to discuss for the day. So figure we could start there. So Shang-Chi is all about balance and skill. And if you could master one Disney parks or Imagineering skill, like a superhero, what would it be and why? And I'll go first so you can
Oh,
think about
please.
it.
One's fantastic.
So mine is, I think I wish I had the ability, and it's an ability that you actually have, to do concept art. I wish I could. I wish I just had the skill of drawing. And we talked about this before we started recording, but I'm also colorblind. So it makes it really challenging
That is
to
a very
create
valid
things.
challenge.
So when I'm creating stuff for our Instagram and stuff, I have to like look at like hex codes and make sure that I'm aligned with what the color is, because I don't want to make something purple that's supposed to be blue or red that's green. So I think that would be my dream, like just to have these visions in my head that could just come out visually somehow. So I think that's mine.
No, that's it's interesting you mentioned that, because up until like 5 years ago, I had never drawn in my life. I've never taken a lesson.
Okay, that gives me hope then.
No, genuinely, I've never taken any. I've never had any education in any of it, and I'm flattered that you even think that you could call it concept art.
It is concept art.
It really is just making it up as I go along, and that there's a certain joy in that, because it feels so almost like rudimentary and mistakeful and a mistake. I don't even. That's not a word. No, it is a word, but in a completely different way.
I'm following. Yeah,
it's full of mistakes.
There it is.
That's another way to say it. That's another way to say it. No, and it's fun to just like see what works. And I think if you have an eye for, I think that's working, and I don't think this is working. I think, I mean, I think I sent over some stuff one time, and you and the team were looking at it, and you were like, "Wow, this is amazing." And I was like, "Well, it's just lines and circles and squiggles."
Yeah, but you somehow turned that into art. That's what I didn't understand. It was straight lines and circles,
straight lines and perfect circles.
Yeah,
and basic shapes can tell a story. Why not? I've got to answer the question now, don't I?
Yeah, you do. You can't get away without it.
So my skill that I could master, and I've tried it a couple times and I've just not quite got there, is something to do with modeling, with being able to model in a three-dimensional way. Some on a small scale, and some on a real placemaking, grander scale, because it's all well kind of doing a 2D image, but when you have to bring that to life, that I think that is a completely different perspective that is so too. Helpful to have, that I haven't quite figured out, but I'm planning on teaching myself at some point.
I was about to say, have you attempted yet?
I've tried a few bits. I have an app. I think it's called Nomad Sculpt, and that's a very very quick way to do it on my iPad, where it just gives you a big lump of clay and you can move around shapes and create. So I was in the process of turning the attraction vehicles that I had created for the Atlantis projects into a 3D model, and it's a lot more challenging.
I can imagine. I wouldn't even know where to begin if there was a lump of clay in front of me.
I realized my sketches need to be a lot more dimensional and true to measurements, and have an idea of measurements before I go in, because as soon as I start looking at there's no way that's going to work. This is too long, and this is too wide, and that's not going to work. So that is, I think, that is the skill that I want to really hone in on next.
And that's a really good one, because when we've interviewed a lot of Imagineers on this show, and all of them seem to have started with either drawing or modeling. And it's like, that's kind of the foundation of where they go, or a combination, or maybe a combination of both. But it seems like they all came from one of those worlds. And
it's visual storytelling. It's an idea of like, how can I, it does does not have to be a beautiful piece of art. If I had
Hmm.
if I had a napkin next to me and a pen, I could be able to visually describe to you what this is in a
Yeah,
really quick way.
right. You're making your imagination tangible for someone to see. So,
What a phrase.
and that's what Imagineering is, I think.
I mean,
So,
I don't know the catchphrase for Walt Disney Imagineering, but making the imaginable tangible is pretty decent.
I like it. We're
It's
gonna
not
stick with
bad.
that.
It's
We'll
not
offer it
bad.
to them. Hmm. They can borrow it.
100%.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it is time for our Imagineering project of the week. And this week's project manager is Tyler. So the floor is yours.
Goodness me, what a journey we're going to go on. We are going to do a Shang-Chi attraction for the China Pavilion at Epcot because China has nothing. That's not
It
true.
sure
That's not
doesn't have much.
it's not much. It's not a whole lot. It has got a movie. You
It
can go
does.
and
It has a movie.
and it is beautiful. It has been there for a long time.
Mhm.
And it shows a wonderful, I think what they've got the one in China, they've got the one in Canada and France.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yep.
Are those the three?
Yeah.
I think it is time to give the China Pavilion a little bit of a kick, a little bit of more of a draw.
Fully agree.
Considering that we've got like loads of Asian parks,
Yeah.
it would make sense to me that we had a little bit more development in the China Pavilion. So we're going with a Shang-Chi expansion, and
Yes.
then we also got a little bit of a rehash of the movie in question. But I think we'll get to that a little bit later. That'll be a discussion for a little bit after this. But for the moment, we're gonna delve straight into Shang-Chi. So the idea that I've gone for, and actually, Stephen, you helped me to figure out just logistically where this could go. There's an area just behind almost a waterway, and behind the building that houses the 360 Panama Canal, panoramic, something of that sort.
Close enough.
That area, which is just outside the cast member area where I think you've actually had some time to
Yeah.
work in.
I sure did. It's the entertainment costuming building right there.
But there is quite a sizable. I think you measured it out, something about 40,000 square feet of usable land that wouldn't be an eyesore. You could build a big old attraction building back there, and it wouldn't be terribly visible from the public view. And we're going to build a Shang-Chi dark ride there. And
Yes.
that's really the essence there. The entrance being at the back area of the China Pavilion. So you've walked past the panoramic movie. You've walked past I think it's called the Lotus. There's a restaurant there. I can't exactly remember the name of it. And you get kind of to that back area, which at the moment is loads of shops. It is just giant spaces for shopping, and then also the exit for the 360 panoramic film. And the idea is that we want to pull guests through the land. Our new weenie that we are creating in a way is to put a Shang-Chi Avengers attraction at the back of that area, pulling them through the land, encouraging them to just kind of keep going through that area. But as well as putting an area back there, we're going to revitalize it a little bit. And in that back area where the shopping is, we're going to continue some of that shopping. I think classic Disney. You do the attraction, and you come out, and there's the gift shop, which is a wonderful way to kind of round out your experience in a way. So you throw some throw some merchandise in there, but I think the idea is that we are revitalizing that area with what I put a phrase down here: authentically Marvel and distinctly Chinese, which is basically a paraphrase of the vision of Shanghai Disneyland.
Yep, that's that is what it
Yes,
is.
so
Mhm.
it's got a foot in tradition with the vibrancy of today. So you have those wonderful narrative, traditional architectural elements to it, but it's
Mhm.
also got some modern flares to it in terms of signage and period even. So you're kind
Well,
of
I like that you're bringing that. Like it can work both ways. It doesn't have to stay in China. That
I
can
don't
work at
I think
Epcot
I
too.
think so as I think as well, but that I guess that brings it on to the what is World Showcase? Is it the idea
Mhm.
that we are walking? Have we been, as soon as we're in a land, are we in China, or are we in a China pavilion at Epcot?
Right.
I don't know the
I don't
answer
know
to
the
that.
answer to that either. Yeah.
And I don't know that that is particularly relevant to the idea, but obviously it would be very relevant in terms of just getting your kind of head around from a design standpoint of what is this. I'd be curious to know what exactly the ethos is around that.
Mhm.
But the idea is you have a revitalized shopping area at the back there. You have Avengers merch. You have Shang-Chi merch. You have some other Chinese characters merchandise that we have back there potentially as well. Um, but you will lose a little bit of space for shopping, but I'm not so worried about that because there are the stalls at the very front
Mhm.
of the pavilion as well. So there's just an enormous amount of merchandise space to play with. All that to say, in that area where that market is, where that merchandise is a tea shop. And this is going to lead us on to what the story is in regards to what this attraction is. So the idea is, and I actually was inspired by the Captain America First Avenger film, where I think he walks into a bookshop and the lady back behind the desk presses a button and it opens up to a shield base. The idea is in China there's this tea shop, and at the back of this tea shop is a secret new Avengers base.
It's very
And
speakeasy vibes.
I think that's like the idea
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
it's this front
Mhm.
for an Avengers base disguised as a tea shop. And I'm going to delve straight into the overall story here. So this is going to be a little bit of reading, but we're gonna get through it. Um, Guests, recruits, and I will get as to why we're called recruits in just a second, are brought through the tea shop into a secret Avengers base and are briefed on their mission by Shang-Chi, Katie, and Wong, who are some wonderful
Yes.
characters that we kind of get to pull through. And that's going to be in a pre-show space of sorts. Their mission is to save Ta Lo. Ta Lo is the mystic village area almost outside of our world that Shang-Chi traveled to in the original film. And our mission as recruits is to save Ta Lo. Ta Lo is under attack by some rogue soul eaters attempting to reawaken the dweller in darkness. Shang-Chi, the protector of Ta Lo, has reached out to the Avengers and advised him to enlist the aid of their newest recruits, which is you. And how do they know that you are these recruits? The idea is Avengers Campus, so another Disney park entity where guests have been before and saved Avengers Campus from the Spider Bot invasion. The idea is that the Avengers have heard of us as guests and how our great efforts in saving Avengers Campus. And they say, Shang-Chi, I know the people for you. It's going to be our newest recruits. And I think campus, I think the idea of it is that they are training these new Avengers, these new
Yeah.
recruits. I think campus is actually an acronym for something, but I can't remember the exact acronym. Um, um, but
Look it up.
we'll look it up. But the idea is that we are continuing the story of Avengers Campus in this new story with Shang-Chi.
It stands for Centralized Assembly Mobilized to Prepare, Unite, and Safeguard
There we go.
Campus.
That's the
There it
acronym.
is.
That's the acronym.
And I really like this synergy you've created. It kind of incentivizes people to go and experience Avengers Campus if they haven't.
I
You know?
100% as well. And there is potentially an argument saying, well, how can we assume that our guests have already done that experience and that there's a history there, and so that's translating into this? I don't think that's too much of an issue. Number one, because it has been out for a few years. And if this got green lighted, this wouldn't be built for another 8 years.
That's generous.
Generous. So I think we're probably safe on that end. But that is the overall story. We are defending Talo against some rogue soul eaters attempting to reawaken the Dweller in Darkness. Which, if you haven't watched the movie, it is not a retelling of the movie. It is a story set post the events of the film, but in a similar manner. So I guess kind of get that experience of, oh, what would it have been to be in the movie? But I'm kind of in my own story now. I think that's really the idea behind it. And I'm really passionate about, well, what's the theme of this place? And for me, theme is, what do guests take away from this? Like, well, what do they learn from this? And for me, the theme of potentially the original film, especially for the character Katie, is the idea that you don't need superpowers to be a hero. You don't have to be extraordinary to do extraordinary things. And I think that's a really cool idea to present to guests. The idea that me as me can do something amazing and be the hero, and I don't have to I don't have to shoot fire out of my arms, and I don't have to be able to fly or have super strength. I can just be me and do amazing things.
Right. It's a come as you are.
Come as you are type situation.
Everyone
thing.
has a untapped.
And that really was Katie's story throughout the original film, and she was actually the one that ended up, shooting the last arrow to defeat the great big monster. And after doubting herself and saying, "No, I can't do this," and they say, "No, you can. You can do this." And I think that's a wonderful idea to play with. I'm going to move on to setting up a few of the questions I wanted to answer with this project before I jump into just a narrative of this is what it's going to be. So we've already discussed that the attraction is set post the movie. That's just an important thing from just an idea of we are in our own original story. In keeping with an Epcot theme, I want to note that I think this would work super well if we had attraction vehicles sponsored by BMW, which sounds totally weird, having a German car company sponsor an attraction in the China Pavilion. But if you watch the film, you would see why that actually makes sense. There are these souped up BMW hatchbacks that are featured constantly throughout the film, and that also feels very Marvel in terms of, hey, what, I guess Tony Stark drives a Audi, I guess Shang-Chi drives a BMW, and I think that there's a potential of sponsorship in the same way that I think it's Chevy who do Test Track, and in the same way that it is presented by our ride vehicles, which I'll get to, could literally be a BMW hot hatchback.
And that's the DNA of Epcot. That's how it was created, and I love the continuation of the sponsorship.
No, 100%. So I think those are just two things to note before we jump in. And then also some questions I wanted to answer. And what is going to be unique about this attraction? How do we push technology forward? How do we give something to guests that they haven't experienced before? And that leads me on to this idea of using stuntronics in an attraction. Stuntronics really, to my knowledge, have been used for Spider-Man and the launch stuntronic that they use, that, which is a super cool effect, and I'd love to see more of that in a Disney park. So the idea I had is, what if you are sat in a vehicle and an animatronic, a character, in this case Shang-Chi, could literally flip over your ride vehicle, starting on one side of a scene and almost landing in another. And that is going to be I think a wow factor, and something unique to the attraction that I really, really wanted to explore.
Agreed, and it's such an underutilized offering.
100%. 100%.
We've got one example of it that's used.
That is really cool. That is really, really cool.
People wait for that thing.
100%. 100%. So I think that's one unique thing. I think there's also some options for using the sling ring, which has become kind of this symbol of Marvel, as these sling ring portals, the Doctor Strange portals, and that would be available through Wong, who has connections to Shang-Chi throughout the movie, and is also a mystic. Is that would that be his official title? I think of that sort. And those are the kind of the two unique effects that I think would be really fun to play with. All that to say, I'm going to go straight into a real narration of what this experience would be. And I guess I'll just go straight into that.
Yeah, take it away.
Guests are brought through the tea shop into the Secret Avengers base and are briefed on their mission by Shang-Chi, Katie, and Wong to save Ta Lo. Ta Lo is under attack by some rogue soul eaters attempting to reawaken the Dweller in Darkness. Shang-Chi needs your help deploying a new sonic weapon lethal to the soul eaters that have been retrofitted to a fleet of BMW hot hatchbacks. Wong, however, is skeptical of putting civilians in harm's way. Shang-Chi counters, saying they are not civilians. Peter, Spider-Man, we're doing a little bit of fantastic comedy writing there. He personally recommended them. They saved Avengers Campus from the Spider-Bot invasion. Wong gives a disapproving look, to which Katie steps up and says, "It doesn't take superpowers to be a hero, Wong. They can do this." Wong gives one more look of skepticism before Katie belts out in an a cappella version of Hotel California.
On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair.
Which, if that seems super weird to you, it makes total sense if you've seen the movie.
It sure does. Go watch it immediately.
It is a really fun piece of comedy in that. Okay, shouts Wong, and agrees to send them on their way to the loading area. Recruits are loaded into their retrofitted BMW-sponsored vehicles and are transported via sling ring to the bamboo forest. Dodging the bamboo, recruits blast through the waterfall portal into Ta Lo. It is beautiful. Lush forest and fantastical mythic creatures of all sorts living among the wildlife and the village. But the beauty of Ta Lo sours as a beastly threat ensues. Shang-Chi, via comms in your vehicle, gives us the all clear. Blaring the sonic weapon, the car lurches forward, paralyzing soul eaters in its wake. The car swerves around a bend, narrowly avoiding a horde of demons. Around the corner, a larger soul eater appears. Shang-Chi launches over the vehicle. This is our stuntronic right over here. Flipping majestically through the air as if time itself has slowed to witness his skill. In my mind, this is a Zack Snyder moment of, is it possible to slow a vehicle down and also slow the stuntronic, which I'll get into the technicalities of that, at the same time so that they are, our very cinematic slow motion movement. Is that are we able to slow down the movements of the animatronic and the movements of the vehicles to create that effect? I think that's the idea here. Shang-Chi, he lands, launching the 10 rings, burying the beast. Go, 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 yells Shang, and the car continues on. But wait, the Soul Eaters, they've stolen enough souls. They are reawakening. It can't be the Dweller in Darkness. The Dweller in Darkness is a giant, like, dragon thing. It is a menacing thing. The Dweller rises over the vehicle with a fearsome roar. Shang-Chi orders us to retreat back through a portal to HQ. Recruits race towards the ring, hearing the Dweller thundering from behind. Escaping the portal back into Avengers HQ, we hear a firm slice as the ring closes behind us. The vehicle swerves around, revealing Shang-Chi standing exhausted next to the severed head of the Dweller in Darkness. Good work out there. You guys are great. Let's not do that again. It's a very, I'm thinking, you know, when Indiana Jones at the end of Forbidden Temple, and he sat there, just stood next to the big old rock, and he's going, well, that sucked. that just fully sucked. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
That's the image right here. But that is that's the experience.
And bravo. That is some incredible writing. I felt like I was right there with you.
That's the idea.
Katie and I talk about this when we get into the zone and start coming up with a project, and how much we love just the writing of the story. Like you can just kind of create whatever you want, and it's so much fun to do. And you really
100%
brought it with that.
It's really fun to do. But for me, what's more fun to just kind of have this idea is to make the idea make sense in terms of, how are the Soul Eaters back? I thought you killed them all. And then I rewatched the movie and realized, oh no, there's a few that get away. Okay, we could pull that. We could pull that
watch for
back.
the detail
And so how does the Dweller in Darkness get its power? Okay, it gets it by sucking souls. Well, how are we going to find these things to suck souls? I think, well, if the wildlife is getting attacked, potentially we might lose some wildlife and that almost has this soul energy that's able to create, which all sounds very ridiculous until you see it in person. But I think it's more fun for me to that could work with this and that makes sense because of this.
That's the fun part. Piecing
100%.
into things that and you figure things out as you go along that just fit perfectly, and you
100%
wedge them in.
100%. But that is the dark ride, in an essence, and that is the story. I think it could be interesting. I know as probably part of this we're going to be releasing. I know I've done a bunch of sketches for stuff. It might be interesting to kind of discuss some of the effects potentially.
Absolutely.
And the idea of how that would work. So I'll start off with I'm going to start off with the sling ring. The sling ring is a really cool one. The idea is almost similar to, I think it's in Shanghai, Battle for Sunken Treasure, where the doors almost open up onto this plane of the screen, as if through magic. I know there's a doorway and a Beauty and the Beast attraction, I think in Tokyo, where a picture frame stretches out and this doorway is created. I personally am not engineer in any way, but I think there's very much the idea of a portal appearing out of nowhere and us being able to go through that. I think through lighting, I think through set pieces and whatnot. The second one I want to talk about is the bamboo forest, which is a really cool one because it's not just a forest in the movie. It is almost a living, breathing thing. I'm going to get up my sketch here so that I have a reference. But we have what I'm going to call the living bamboo effect. And the idea is if you're in a ride vehicle, these kind of BMW hot hatchbacks, in our minds and what I imagined it is a version of the trackless ride vehicles from Zootopia Hot Pursuit, which, if you've seen those, it's a police car that can hold, a solid amount of people. I don't exactly know the throughput idea for this, but I put it similar to that. But you got a good group of people in this vehicle driving straight through a bamboo forest. And how do we make that bamboo forest alive? Well, on either side of us, we're going to have two conveyor belts, two very, very long, thin conveyor belts with bamboo stacked on it. I'm going to try to explain this as best I can, but the idea is that as the car is moving through these two basically panels of bamboo, and these are real set pieces, these aren't screens, that they are almost rotating almost inwards towards you, and I think that does two things. It serves two purposes. Number one, it gives the illusion of speed to the vehicles, because if you're moving through a space, even particularly slowly, but things are moving quickly around you, you feel as if you're moving a lot faster than you actually are. But then also the other idea is it brings the bamboo to life, as if it had a mind of its own. It is its own character. I think that could be a really almost inexpensive effect that could be really quite useful. Like how do we move bamboo through a space? And I think you could just put it on a track with a couple of wheels, and I think it would serve the narrative in that way. But that's effect number two.
That's true Imagineering right there. They didn't need a lot of money to make those effects for Haunted Mansion, and they've held up today.
I think that's it. I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than you put a bunch of bamboo on a conveyor belt and you just center it around in a circle quickly, and I think it would do the effect that it was going for. Effect number three. That's what we're going for. You're going to want to cut out that last gulp there, because that was a solid piece of water that went through my gullet.
I think we'll keep that.
That's fantastic. Do you know what? Fair enough. The third effect, which is the one I'm most excited about, which is the Shang-Chi stuntronic. The idea for this is that we're putting an animatronic on a Kuka arm. If you don't know what a Kuka arm is, you'll know very quickly when is it the Stark Flight Lab? Is that what it's called?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be all out in the open, so you're going to see exactly how that works. It is a giant robotic arm. You've definitely seen, not even theme parks using them, but all kinds of companies use it. And
automobile factories, anything.
It's not a new technology. It is one that's been around for a long time. Sometimes carrying very light loads, sometimes carrying very heavy loads. I know Forbidden Journey, for example, those carriages at Universal are on a Kuka arm. But it's basically a giant robotic arm that can move things in very precise ways. And that is that is programmable. That is a really, really sure way. So in a way, is it a stuntronic or is it just an animatronic on a Kuka arm? You decide. But he's doing stunty things. The idea is that we're putting a Kuka arm and we're attaching it to a ceiling. And that Kuka arm on the ceiling is on a track. It can move diagonally through a space. It can move horizontally. Not vertically. Vertically, it isn't necessarily needed because the movement of the Kuka arm. But we are putting a Shang-Chi animatronic on the end of that, and he is going to flip over your vehicle. I'd be interested. I think this would be a very much an R&D thing, how you play with scale. Because I think the idea that you want is that Shang-Chi is right next to you. But obviously for health and safety reasons, he cannot be. You cannot have Bob reach up his arm and grab Shang-Chi by the arm and try to yank him down. You have to be very...
So if I'm following you correctly, he's never detaching from the Kuka arm.
No, he's attached the whole time.
And that makes sense. And I think from a safety standpoint, that's the only way you could do it, because the fear of it miscalculating if it were to be free flying through the air and hitting someone.
And it is, just to mention, this is all hypothetical. So I think it is very possible. This seems like a technology that could very easily be done. But someone has to create it. I can just think about it. But I think this could work. In terms of scale, I'd be curious if by enlarging the figure by like 10, 20%, it would actually appear closer than it actually is to the vehicle when it's flipping through the air. I'm curious if that would make a difference without
That's a good idea.
Without compromising
with lighting
the effect.
and
I think that could very most definitely be a thing. That would be a really fun experiment to do. Just to be like,
add a gust of wind to it, put a fan on it, and let it blow you as it goes by.
100%, put everything in there. But yeah, the idea is that you're in almost in this darkened room, so you're not going to see the Kuka arm. You're just going to see. You could even blacklight his kit and put a couple black lights on kind of the red costume in a way, just to really make him pop. Yeah, I think that's a effect that could really work, and one that I'd want to see. But that's effect number 3, and then our final effect is kind of this sling ring effect at the very end, which is the big finale, which is the severed head of the Dweller in Darkness. I'm in two minds about this because it is so gory. That idea that
I know where you're going with this.
We're literally like chopping the head off of a dragon and then spinning their vehicles around so that you can look at what you did. Isn't that wonderful? I think number one, I think it's got to be like he's not the severed head isn't bleeding. It is purple goo. Yeah. It's purple goo. Do you know what I mean? It's like that take a little bit of that gore out.
Well, also the angle that you are presented this severed head could also make a huge difference. If it's head on, then you don't have to see the insides of what you've just cut off.
100%. Yeah. The idea is, and I'll just briefly is you've gone straight through a sling ring, and I actually think this happens in Thor Ragnarok. That this kind of idea of like being able to close a portal and it's severing a head. I think that happens in Thor Ragnarok. You go through this portal, you hear it kind of chasing you from behind, and Shang-Chi tells Wong, close it! And it just closes in on this Dweller in Darkness. So in a way, there definitely is a nod to this idea of teamwork between you and Wong and Shang-Chi. I think with attractions sometimes that, we need your help. And then it's like, did you... Like, did you
do
really?
Anything?
Did I do anything,
Right.
or was I just kind of there and sometimes
watching.
just kind of in the way?
Yep. Some creepy voyeur.
I think that gives us as an audience and as guests almost a purpose. Like, oh yeah, that's why I was here. Like, if I wasn't the bait in a way, we couldn't have defeated this Dweller and saved Ta Lo. So I think that effect could work pretty well. Again, it might be tricky to explain exactly how that effect works. You might want to check the sketch for that. But the idea is that you almost, as soon as you get through, you have a platform that comes in with the head preset, and then as your vehicle turns around, the sling ring has closed, and then you have this kind of platform with the preset Dweller in Darkness and Shang-Chi. So
essentially your back is to it as it happens.
Exactly that. As the vehicle does a full 360, which makes sense as to why you would need an Omni movie vehicle for this attraction. Even just there are other bits where there's some severe turning throughout the attraction, but definitely check the ride layout for all that. But that really is the essence of the project. Well done, recruits. You saved Ta Lo. Now exit and go to the gift shop. That's the idea.
I feel proud of myself that I just did this, and I need to now go buy some merchandise to
100%.
say I killed a Dweller.
100%. 100%. Also, you just reminded me of a technical explanation that I wanted to touch on really, really quickly, which was. If I'm going to go to Ta Lo and I want to see the beauty of Ta Lo, can I see the beauty of Ta Lo and it not be daytime? Because daytime is really hard to do in a dark ride environment.
Yeah.
You can do it, but it would be easier to do it in a nighttime scenario, which I think can be done. And then I'm like, well, how is it daytime when we enter and nighttime when we're in the attraction? I think I have two explanations for that. If we're going with the idea that the China Pavilion in Epcot is a China Pavilion in Epcot, it is not you are in China. If you enter the attraction throughout the day and you're going to a portal into Ta Lo, which is in China, the time difference is nighttime.
Yeah, it's 12 hours exactly in Orlando.
So in my mind, that almost explains why that could work. Now, as an audience, you're probably not going to pick that up. But
those are the little details that.
But just as an idea, I'm like, I think that could work. I think by like 9-10 p.m. I don't know when Epcot closes at the moment, but you could be pushing early morning. But to me, that could make sense.
I like that. You thought through it all.
I try. Do you know what's crazy about this though? If this was actually a thing and they said, Tyler, we love it. It's fantastic. And I was brought on in some capacity. Do you know how little information, like how few questions I've thought through? Like the amount of questions I'd be like, what about this? And I'd be like, I never thought about that. Or there would be someone be. But that's
how everyone does it. Yeah.
I guess that's the fun of it, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll figure it out together.
We'll make it up. We'll figure it out.
There's always an answer.
And there'll be someone with a Marvel Bible as well, just going like,
of course, yeah.
I'm not sure that works because this and this isn't canon yet, and this could mess up this bit, and we're doing this in this movie next, so I don't think you can do it. But I guess that's the work, isn't it? That's the work.
Yeah.
This is the blue sky phase.
Yeah, exactly. We interviewed an Imagineer. His name's Kevin Lively.
I listened to that. That's the guy I was like, he would definitely show up and be like, Tyler.
Right. Just to be this like ambassador of like an attraction or Marvel or something to come in and say, I am the Bible. I'm the final say on what the actual canon is that you can and cannot do here.
In the same way that like Dave Filoni, who did the Clone Wars animation series and has started to move into live action and has a much larger role in Star Wars now, he is the guy. Like you walk onto set, and I remember the actors talking about like Dave Filoni came out to me and he's like, you have this piece because of this, and because of this happened in this, and it's just someone who knows. And you got to have that.
Like they're a walking encyclopedia. Like how valuable they are.
It's an insanely valuable skill. And I think the only way, I shouldn't say only is an absolute, but I think you've got to be just a massive fan of it. You've got to just like live and breathe that stuff and be so researched to be able to have that amazing amount of knowledge.
It's impressive.
But yes, that was the attraction. That was Shang-Chi, a dark ride experience. You drive through the village of Ta Lo in a BMW hot hatchback. You slice the head off the dragon. You get back to Avengers Base, and you go on your merry way. That's the idea.
And as a Shang-Chi fan, it is definitely top 5 favorite Marvel movies for me.
It's a great one. It's a great one.
And I'm a little biased because I just visited China, so I feel like this is bringing all of my favorite things together.
Fantastic.
In a way that is reachable in 2 hours by plane instead of a 16-hour flight. So
100%.
You have just brought me into the world of Marvel, and I can't thank you enough.
my genuine pleasure. And I also I was listening to your Luca episode, and you were talking about your mission to fill in Epcot. To make sure every area, every pavilion has a attraction. I'm glad to have added one more to it.
We're so glad. We don't have that many left.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to. I'm curious if you delve into the one of my favorites, which is the Tony Baxter Mary Poppins UK
We
Pavilion.
we just might.
We
We
just
you
we
know
just
that
might.
we just might. It's so sad that that attraction was announced and then never got off the ground
Yeah,
thanks to COVID.
yeah.
Katie and I were at that
I
D23
didn't
when
even
they
know it was
announced it.
officially announced.
Yes, they
I
announced it
didn't know that.
2019
I didn't
at
know that.
D23. They brought Dick Van Dyke out on stage with all these chimney sweep dancers, announced this
Wild,
attraction was happening. We were so excited, and then COVID and canceled indefinitely. So
horrendous.
someday
Because I think
the
that
the
was.
plans are out there.
Well, I think that was Tony Baxter, who's Disney Imagineering legend.
Mhm.
I think that was his first introduction to Imagineering. Was he basically showed up at their door, handed them
Mhm.
a book of this is an idea I have for an attraction, and they said really good, go to school, come back, and that's exactly what he did. Um,
This sounds
um,
familiar. This sounds like something you might be onto.
potentially. No, I think that's been in them. We can't do that anymore. That's unoriginal. It's not original.
I don't know if
Um,
that's your way in.
do you know? But it's this. I've seen the sketches for it. It's this beautiful, almost like mini carousel that you're on, and you're kind of you're on this little like mini carousel
I
going
haven't even
through
seen
a
this.
dark. It is. They are so cool. They are so cool.
Ooh,
If I remember
okay.
correctly, I might be totally making that up.
I'm looking into that. I like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
super cool, super cool. Should we talk about the little bit of
Absolutely.
something
The
else other than
bonus.
the bonus attraction?
Yeah.
The
If you're gonna
idea
plus China, plus it all the way.
plus it all the way. Before we get to that, you actually had a great idea for the Shang-Chi area, which was to put a Boston Dynamics robot in.
I
Do you want
thought so. I was inspired. So I am obsessed with the character Morris from the movie. That thing is so cute. I have a
the
dog.
most adorable?
It's just so lovable, and I thought this has to appear in some way. If we're bringing Shang-Chi to Epcot,
Mm,
he has to appear. And
mm,
so I thought, what if he was like a walk around character, but as an actual robot, like we've
mm,
seen with the Star Wars droids that are
mm.
walking around, and now this new baby dragon. I don't know if it's a baby toothless. I don't know the name of them.
I think it's like the
Yeah.
child of Toothless
Yes. Yeah. The
and
baby toothless
yes,
baby, and
yes.
walking around, and it's so adorable. And I thought
Mm,
this would be a perfect opportunity to bring that to Epcot.
mm. And it
So,
literally is. If you're not, it is the Boston Dynamics
mhm,
robot. It is this very famous. It's
mhm.
been around for many years. They've got it super advanced now, where it can do amazing movements. And you put it. They basically just put a skin on it, and it
Yep.
works so well.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I put Morris in that thing. That the
Yeah.
kind of 9-winged headless furball.
Faceless. Yes.
Hopefully doesn't terrify. I mean, I could. Do you know
Well,
what? Now that we've said that, if you had a 6-year-old around the corner and saw that, there's potential for them
true.
to scream.
Because these
What is that?
it's already a scary concept. There's a Black Mirror episode with these robots in it that chase these people down, and it's absolutely horrifying when you use them that way. But we're gonna have a very sweet, lovable, faceless
100%.
furry version of this. And so
100%.
if you
And
get
it's going to
scared,
be cute.
so
It's going
it's
to
gonna
be.
be cute. There's
It's
no
gonna
way
be
you can be
cute.
afraid of it. He's gonna be so
No
cute.
way.
What the
What the
hell?
front? Oh! What is that? What is that? Oh! Who?
What's what?
That!
That!
What is that?
You can see Morris.
Morris.
Oh, Morris! They can see you. You're real. All this time I thought I was hallucinating him. Oh, this is such fab news.
Where's his face?
He's a bit sensitive about that.
No, 100%. Anyway, I thought that was such a lovely
Oh, thank
little
you. Yeah.
little kinetic idea.
I love an entertainment opportunity. That's
100%.
one of my favorite things about Disney, and how I feel like they kind of set themselves out from the rest.
100%.
But,
100%. The bonus. We are giving the panoramic film a rehash. We're
Thank
giving it a
God.
rehash. It is
It's
wonderfully nostalgic. It is not viewed by many people, and
Mhm.
I
We
think
need some foot traffic through
and
there.
and I am in no way saying, "Gosh, what an awful!" Because for its time, it was
Sure.
beautiful,
Yeah.
and it did great things. It is not drawing crowds at the moment. I don't know the exact numbers. I think it is probably fair to guesstimate it's probably not drawing many people.
Safe to say.
How could we bring this into into a new light? I think you use probably the most famous Disney IP that is also Chinese, and that is Mulan. There's a Mulan meet and greet in that building already, and you do a rehashed version of the history of China, and you do it with Mushu. And
Absolutely.
Mushu is jumping around the screen, making a total hash of the history of China. And you have the ancestors step in and go, Mushu, what are you doing? Dude, you've got to stop. Like, this is really, it's verging on inappropriate. You've got to, you need to be, I think the idea of these ancestors could work really well. The idea that they're almost timeless, that Mushu is timeless. He is this deity and he's not fixed to a certain period. The ancestors technically could still be around today. They're kind of these immortal beings and could therefore talk about, yes, the history of China, and maybe even do a brief Mulan retelling. I don't know that that's necessarily, but I guess that what is the core of that film? I think you could do that with the characters Mushu and the ancestors talking about the history of China as well as what modern China is like, and do that really tastefully. Throw in a bit of comedy, but kind of this juxtapose of the stoicism of the ancestors and the unseriousness of Mushu and the comedy. And I think there's a conversation to be had there. I think it could breathe new life into that area, to very little change, very little cost. And you've already got the Mulan meet and greet in there. So just make it a bit more Mulan. Is the idea.
I like it a lot. I think we bring Eddie Murphy back for it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I always, when I create things, I always have this thought in the back of my mind that what is going to get a non-Disney dad interested in something. And I feel like both of the things that you have presented here give that little extra something to entertain a non-Disney dad. And I think Mushu, everyone's connected to that, and everybody loves him. I think
that's the scientific metric for, is this a good attraction?
I think so too, right?
Is there a dad whose wife forced him to wear a Hakuna Matata t-shirt?
Yep.
Walking around Disney from Target going, who does not, I don't think really wants to be there. He's already had a few drinks around the world. And he's going, impress me. And he's going, and he's done this attraction. He's gone, do you know what? That wasn't half bad. You got it.
That's what you want to hear.
Half bad.
If it wasn't half bad, that's an A+.
That is an A+ attraction. That is where we've gone beyond the E ticket attraction. That is an F ticket attraction.
That
is an F, and not for fail. That is for.
I was going to say, what is that?
You got an F. That sounds terrible. F for fantastic.
Yes, F for fantastically dad approved.
Fantastically dad approved. Oh, joy.
Wow.
Wild.
I love everything about it. I
think it works.
I'm gonna have a hard time going back.
Is there an argument for that's too much IP? I don't know, potentially.
I don't think it is in this day and age. You know, Bob Iger has stated moving forward, that's what they're going to create.
Yeah.
And it's what brings people. I mean, I think it's bigger than my nostalgia. It's what's going to entertain people and connect people to what they know. And
definitely. No.
I think this
I think nostalgia is a wonderful thing. I think IP is a wonderful thing. This is an honest opinion. I really don't mind seeing the amount of intellectual property being used. I really don't mind it.
I want to step into the worlds that I'm seeing them create in
Absolutely.
the films. So
absolutely. And I think just of course from a business standpoint, it makes sense. Of course it does. And me as a guest, I like it. I don't mind it. Of course I love the nostalgic things. Of course I'm going to go on Pirates and I'm going to go on Haunted Mansion and I'm going to go on all those and really, really enjoy my time. And if you made Haunted Mansion oh gosh, what could be just thrown into Haunted Mansion? I have no idea. But if you revamped that with a new IP, would I be disappointed? Probably. Yeah, but would I also be super interested? Would I be super interested in seeing what they did?
Oh, absolutely. Show me what you can do.
If you're gonna go for it, I'm thrilled to see it. What is the ethos of Epcot? Even it'll never stop. I can't remember the exact wording for it, but it will never be finished. Whilst there's still imagination in the world, that's Walt Disney, isn't it?
His philosophy on Disneyland.
That's the idea. Anyway, that's a whole other can of worms that I will leave to someone much more intelligent than I am. Much more intelligent than I am about the value of nostalgia and the value of new things, I guess.
Exactly. Well, Tyler, I cannot thank you enough. This was so much fun. And I'm sad that Katie and Marissa couldn't be here because I know they would have loved this. So you're going to have to come back in the future for another round 2. But
absolutely. I'll find some more space during my show to think up something else.
Okay, good.
Great. No, it's been such a pleasure. It's been a genuine joy. It is so fun to be an Armchair Imagineer and to have no Blue Sky is a great phase. Blue Sky is phase because you can just have fun. And that really is what it is for me. It's just a heck of a lot of fun. So I'm thrilled that I'm able to.
It's 100%. The mental escape that we love, and that's why we love Disney and themed entertainment in general, because we want an escape from reality and
exercising the imagination muscle, because imagination is not just something people naturally have. It is something that people just it's a muscle you work. It's a muscle you work. So super cool.
Well, tell everyone your Instagram handles one more time so they can find you.
My design account, Tyler Davis Design. That's going to be all my Disney related stuff. That's going to be all my, not just Disney related stuff. That's going to be all kinds of projects and whatnot. I just love it. And then my personal account is under Tyler Michael Davis. And that is where you're going to find me. And those are both on Instagram. That is really just what I use. So yeah, you're going to find me there.
Well, go follow him immediately and thank me later when you do. But huge congratulations for the Tony nomination for Sunset Boulevard. I will be tuning in to watch and cheer for all of you guys and wishing you absolutely nothing but the best with everything that you've got ahead. And I'm so genuinely grateful that our shared passion brought about a new friendship.
100%. It was so it was so lovely that you were New York based and you were able.
I know
I was able to take you backstage and
I'll
chat
never forget it.
Super cool.
I've never had that opportunity before, so can't thank you enough for that too.
It's super. It's super fun. It's super fun to see people and shared passions are a really fun thing. So, bouncing off has been really particularly fun. So, yeah.
Good. Well, that wraps up this episode. And as always, if you can dream it,
you can make a podcast out of it.
Bye.